the Venus-Pluto square, which is no joke. We've been feeling this building up all week, and it started with Mercury going through that whole mess of Saturn, Pluto, K2, and now we're in the thick of Venus just finishing up her run through. So, first she had the square with K2 and then Saturn, and now Pluto. She's finishing it up with Pluto. So this is really affecting our relationship area, and Venus is our relationship to ourselves. It's our relationship to money. It's our relationship to our value system. And of course, the way we value and love and relate to ourselves is what's going to be translated into all of our really deep personal one-to-one relationships. And this is really in our face right now. This is really getting highlighted, and we're looking at these contractual karmic patterns that keep replaying, and the ones that are like unfinished business, there's no escaping from right now, because of course the south node of the moon is all about our old karmic contracts, and with Saturn just riding that south node like for months, neck and neck, like Saturn's not letting up. These two are like tag teaming it for months. So that tells us a story that we've got to do those deeper karmic, we've got to get to those deeper karmic underpinnings, and we've got to do the deeper karmic work. There's no running away from it. There's no escaping it right now, because these planetary forces are really, really asking us now to dive deep into what are those, not only like patterns and reenactments that keep resurfacing in our lives and our relationships, but where are we still unconscious, and where are we contributing to the problem? And we're always contributing to the problem to the level that we're still unconscious, and projecting, blaming, and not knowing what responsibility is ours. We always want to blame the other person. Well, you didn't do this, or you didn't do enough of that, or it's your fault. And it all falls back onto us. The whole thing with Capricorn and with Saturn being so strong right now is that it's about taking responsibility for ourselves and not blaming the other person. And when it comes to these interpersonal dynamics right now, all of us are being challenged to understand, and we're being it's a karmic test in a way, where we have to really more than ever know where our line is in the sand, where we're going to say no. And no means no. It's not no, but okay, maybe, and wherever we have that kind of wishy-washy boundary, we're in trouble. And we're really seeing that. And where people have like pushed us past our own boundary and our own limits, or where we've allowed ourselves, because we can't be victims, where we've allowed ourselves to be manipulated, we've got to take responsibility. And the reason we become manipulated is because we weren't conscious enough to say no, and to draw the line, or to set the limit early enough. So we have to take responsibility for that. And then this is the contractual, like not just contractual like a contract, but contracting. Saturn is the energy of contraction, not just contracts, but contraction in the body, contraction in our energy. Where we've been too expansive, now we have to contract, because this is a boundary issue often. We say yes when we mean no, and that causes breakdowns. I'm actually on my way in a couple weeks to go to this Jungian conference called Rupture and Repair, which I feel that is Saturn, Pluto, and Capricorn in a nutshell, because there's a lot of things being ruptured where the boundaries or the integrity was faulty or weak. And then the repair work, that's also a part of the Saturn, Pluto, or Saturn, K2. We have to now go back in wherever things were ruptured. It's because there was a lack of integrity or a lack of clarity or intention. Now we've got to go back in and repair that through deepening our integrity and our consciousness, and our ability to understand, where do we want to say yes, where do we want to say no, and why have we been giving our power away to, whether it's a boss, an authority figure, a partner, a friend, anyone you're in a contract with. It's often an issue of not being clear from the beginning. So we have to set all these rules and terms and conditions up front, so that this is what happens in business. If you don't have all these disclaimers, then you get into all these problems later on. And we're learning that the hard way right now with all this strong Saturn energy. And now going back to Venus Pluto, it's showing up in terms of our non-negotiables in our relationship and the shadow energy in our relationship, where maybe we don't realize that we've allowed a power complex in some way to overshadow us and to take away our self-love, our ability to love ourselves and stand in our self-love and our self-value. Most importantly, we don't realize that certain ways that we are not being clear with our boundaries is a way that we're undermining our own self-love and our value. And because of that, we're wasting our time, we're wasting our energy, and this is your karmic opportunity, your cosmic karmic opportunity to reclaim that energy now for yourself and to get really clear about your conditions. You know, it's Saturn operates in the world of limits and conditions and rules. And one of my astrology mentors used to say, to have a healthy Saturn means that you don't have too many rules or too few rules. Like, you don't want to be too rigid, but if you have too few rules, then you're a doormat. And with Pluto now squaring Venus, I think we're looking at the shadow piece of that, like where we haven't, because they're all on this, it's like a 3-part story with Saturn, Pluto, and the South Node in Capricorn. So the Pluto piece is, again, if we go back to the judgment archetype of all of those figures awakening out of the grave, coming out of this deep slumber, this deep sleep, and doing that soul review or that life review of those deeper karmic patterns, we can see, okay, where have we been played out? Where have we given our power away? And where do we still need to awaken and transform into our true power? Power meaning empowerment and self-love and ability to stand in our truth and not compromise because we think we need something that's outside of us, you know, from another person, where we're selling ourselves out. Whatever that might be, in a job, in a relationship, in a family dynamic, wherever you're selling your soul, basically. Because let's not forget the devil archetype here with Capricorn. How are we selling our souls to the devil? You know, as a metaphor. Where are we selling out to get something we think we need? Why do we not believe that we have all of that power and capability and love within us? And what are the ways where we are abandoning ourselves or losing touch with an authentic, integral part of ourselves because we think the power is outside of us? This is really the deep question right now with Venus square Pluto. And where do you still value yourself or your relationship to yourself too little, that you are in any way compromising or selling out or losing your integrity or losing your principles, your standards? One of my favorite, you know, I grew up as a big Adam and the Ants fangirl, and one of my favorite, I think this probably saved me, and it became like one of my mottos growing up, the song from Prince Charming where he says, "Don't you ever lower yourself, forgetting all your standards." I mean, that's like, he repeats that. It's like an anthem. Don't you ever forget yourself, lower yourself, forgetting all your standards. So that's the Venus-Pluto mantra. Don't you ever lower yourself, forgetting all your standards. And anyway, and let's look at any way we might be lowering ourselves and forgetting our standards, because Pluto is not going to have it. And if you have been, it's going to really come up in your face right now, because that's what Pluto does. It's a slow, but here's your shadow, kind of, might come up in a dark dream. It could come up in an intense encounter in your love relationship, a bad date, a bad situation with a coworker or friend or client or teacher, boss, whatever. I mean, it can come up in so many ways, but it'll feel like a shadow force for sure. And you'll be like, what is this? Or it'll feel like something you don't have power over. And the other thing I think with all these cardinal energies, so again, looking at the Aries, Cancer, Capricorn, Libra area of your horoscope, that's where this deeper ongoing. Again, if you have planets around that 20 to 24 degree mark, that's where that deeper work is going on right now. That real excavation of the old soul stories, soul patterns, soul scripts, Akashic record level, this is your karma kind of story is getting worked on and getting tested. And your integrity is being tested first and foremost. And those old stories that no longer serve you, those old standards, those old rules, those old lack of boundaries are really up now for a deep healing. So this is what we're looking at. And to the degree that we are conscious of it and we're putting in the work, we're on the right track. But to the level that we're not, nobody can do this work for us. I mean, even if you're in the most incredible marriage or relationship, and we have to give thanks for wonderful partners that we have and the people in our lives that love and adore us and support us. But at the same time, we still have to do the work on our own. We can't lean on our partners right now. We've got to do it. There's some work we just have to do by ourselves, and that's the Saturn piece of it. We can't skip steps, and nobody can do it for us. We've got to take responsibility, and it can feel lonely at times, that part of the work. Even if you're in a marriage, even if you're in the most wonderful relationship, it can still feel lonely at times because you have to face yourself, and that we come in alone and we go alone, and all of those connections and bonds in between are such beautiful gifts, and it's a wonderful part about being alive. But at the end of the day, that deeper soul work goes on alone. Jung said you can't individuate alone, meaning like it's not about we live in a cave, we don't have close, intimate bonds. We need those mirrors to show us our shadow, and we're grateful for that, and that's how we grow the most. But then we still have to then take that work and do it. Nobody can do that work for us, is what I'm trying to say. So anyway, this is the wake-up call right now, and it's a great opportunity to face ourselves and to get empowered and to really look at how we can love and value ourselves on the deepest level possible. Thank you so much for watching.